Uh, right. So the role of culture um, in international business, obviously, how it is going to be in relation to global business. Okay. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to discuss the primary characteristics of culture. Of course, it is not. This is not research. This is actually basic knowledge of culture. Okay, uh, we can extend that and do much more detailed analysis of culture definition, various definition. But we'll stick to what the book's definition is: characteristics, and then various elements of culture, and provide examples of how they influence international business. Maybe you can also share your own opinions and experiences. And we want to look at the approaches for doing international business, or trying to understand the culture, or comparing the culture, or clustering. We have approaches for clustering and comparing cultures. Why? Because it's important for us to understand the culture before we go and venture into a foreign country. And also, finally, to look at how cultural conflicts may arise in international business. Okay, there's only four. There's only four learning objectives. Okay. Now, actually, firms that rely on their familiar home culture to compete in a new foreign market can actually jeopardize their international success. Because when you go abroad, you must not be stuck to your way of doing things. Okay, because it may not be practical to use certain management practices, or what do you call, procedures in the host country. Okay, right. So you must understand that there are customs, there are values, there are things, way of doing things, which are actually cultural aspects. Okay, so all aspects of business, international business, may be affected by culture variation. The way that you negotiate may be different. The way that you perceive things, even the language. Okay, languages that we actually use. So virtually all facets of international business is going to be, affected by culture. And at the same time, culture can result into competitive advantage or disadvantage on the firms if we are not careful. Okay, if we are not aware of, we are not cognizant of, the culture, then we are going to be unsuccessful. Okay, unsuccessful in the sense that maybe even your product may not be selling in the new market, because you're bringing, your own perception of, the perfume that you used to produce. Okay, before we go further, okay, let's think a little bit about the meaning of culture. I think you have been exposed to many definitions. And what is culture? Okay, Norian, what is culture? What is culture?
I would say these are the manners you act from your environment context.
Your manners?
Yeah, your manners, or maybe even the food, your language.
Your food, the way that you dress, the way that you actually, work,
the way you speak,
your working hours, your timekeeping. So all those are actually, okay. The book gives this example. Okay, let's discuss a little bit. So the book gives the example, a definition that it is a collection of values. Okay, values. And also beliefs. Okay, belief system, values, belief, behaviors, customs, the way that we actually do things, the way that we actually how is our family connections, okay? How is individual represented in the society? Are we an individualistic society, or are we a collectivist society? Do you work good in a group, or you work well in individually? Okay, and also your attitudes towards others. Okay, attitudes that distinguish one society from another. And of course, it is it is diverse. Okay, even in Malaysia also, we are a multiracial country. Can you imagine, since independence 1957, there are Chinese, there are Malays, there are Indians, there are Bengalis. We are really a very very mixed society. So when companies do business, do you do business with Malay dominated companies or Chinese dominated companies? Chinese way of doing things, very fast, no hanky-panky, handshake agreement, handshake agreement. They are they based on trust. Okay, so those differences exist. So it is your value system. Of course, value system is coming from our family, coming from our religion, okay, coming from our race, right? So in terms of we'll start first. What it is. How can we characterize culture? Okay, how can we characterize? But there is only four characteristics that actually given in the book. So first of all, the characteristic of culture, it is learned behavior. You agree? Culture is learned behavior. Alban, is it learned behavior? Culture is.
I think so. Like when you asked for the definition of culture, I was thinking of behavior, like your education and behavior. Yeah.
Your education?
Yeah, I mean, your behavior depends on your education,
Yeah,
but your
right,
education
right.
depends on your
You're
culture.
right. Okay, depends your education level. The way, depends on your, how knowledgeable you are. Okay, how knowledgeable you are, right? So behavior depends on at which level you have achieved probably your education. Not to say someone who actually there are no stupid people in the world. Okay, they are less fortunate. Okay, if you start looking at these are stupid people, they are smart people, then you have difficulties, because these people probably they are smart in their own rights. Okay, they are good in their right. Good. Okay, education is actually, so that education is learned, right? You learn that, so it's a learned behavior. So anything that, okay, I'll just cut things briefly, okay, short. So reflects learned behavior that is transmitted from one member of society to another. So for example, these two concepts of intergenerationally when parents teach children. So do you get, behaviors, you cannot do this, you can do this. Okay, that is something that parents teach us. For example, table manners. For example, in Muslim society, we eat by hand. I do not know whether Sarah eat by hand or not. Okay, but in what do you call Western society, you eat using fork and or knife, fork, spoon, and knife. But our society, intergenerationally, I also from my parents, so I eat by hand. Table manners, yeah, table manners is okay to eat by hand, but if I go to a restaurant in England, I have to actually change my way of doing things. Okay, I cannot be using my hands, and I have to respect the the way things are being done there. So that's we will go into that later on. Okay, trying to culturalize. Okay, so parents teach their children, and also when seniors educate their hang on. Oh. Okay. So seniors educate incoming freshmen about the school's traditions. So that is also intragenerationally, learn behavior. Okay. So anything that is, and it becomes reinforced, and we can go into psychology and so on. Okay, whether it is rewarding or not rewarding. So I'm not going to go into psychology. I'm just going the surface of it. Okay. So and all those Pavlov or whatever, but it's a learned behavior. Okay. First of all, number one. Number two, it is interrelated. What do you mean by interrelated? It is not just one. It's a learned behavior, but it is interrelated to the hierarchy in a society. It is related to the how we have been practicing it. For example, the book gives an example about Japan's group-oriented. Japan are very, group-oriented. I think French is less group-oriented, right? It's towards the individualistic. Is it group-oriented society or it's an individualistic? Okay, individualism. So it's a group-oriented, very hierarchy. We can say it's like it's not a kasta system. Okay, kasta system in Hinduism. Hinduism, they have kasta. Do you know that, Alman? Have you heard of caste? So Hinduism have caste. Sarah, have you heard of that? They have caste. Or it's similar to the British class system, aristocrat and the working class. So it's feudalism actually. Feudalism. We have the elites, and then the working class and the slaves. Okay, so hierarchy. Society. That's why in Japan, it's quite difficult. If you want to be promoted, you must be senior in the organization. Junior, well, you can be promoted, okay, based on your merit, but normally they will prefer seniority. Okay. So Japan go oriented, and then harmony. Japan is very harmonious society. They don't like to rock the boat. Okay. You don't want to actually stir things. And loyalty. Okay, so these things actually translate into lifetime employment and minimum job switching previously, but not today. Probably today they have actually there's a lot already job switching, but this is it is interrelated. The way that they actually what do you call behave in the society, or the values that they hold to. Okay, right. Another thing that you must understand is that it is adaptive. Okay, adaptive. So what do you mean by adaptive? Because it is a learned behavior. Learn. Culture is a learned behavior. So it is adaptive. Okay, and adaptive means it actually changes in response to external forces that affect society. Can we think of an example? Culture changes in response to external forces that affect society. Any example? Or probably read the book's example. What does the book give example? This probably you will understand better. Okay. So after World War II, Germany was divided into free market-oriented West Germany and communist-controlled East Germany. Despite having common heritage over centuries, this division created large cultural differences between the East Germans and the West Germans. Okay, so because it is, one is the ideology, right? The ideology that they hold to. So it affects the way that they actually, run the business and, risk-taking attitudes to work. In a communist society, do you want to work as hard as in, in this free market economy, or a democratic economy. In a communist society, you will just be if I produce more, I'll still get the same salary, right? Do you want to work as hard as so that will actually you respond to that. Okay, the way that you actually behave will respond to what external forces is affecting the society. Suddenly, for example, right today, Saudi has now become very, very open. Used to be very, very religious, but now it's very, very open. So what happened to the society is that the society now is actually responding to that new so-called freedom. Okay, freedom. Previously, the Arabs women cannot drive car, but today they can drive car. So they are now going out and get driving licenses and buying cars, and they can, they change their lifestyle. Correct. Okay, and they are more open. So it is adaptive. Towards the end of the chapter, we will discuss a little bit about the conversion of culture. There is no, almost the world today have only one culture, because everybody can read the social media, can view the what is happening all over the world. There is a conversion of culture. Okay, almost same way of thinking, not much different compared to 50-60 years ago, where you have diversity. But today there is a lot of accommodation. Okay, shared it is shared. Okay, culture is shared. So shared by members of the society defines the measure in society. I mean, it is the same members in the society will share the same values. For example, drinking alcohol among Muslims is, we don't drink. So when the member of society drinks alcohol, then we say, no, he's not part of us, or he's not following our norms. But in your society, like Alban, you don't drink, Alban, probably you drink little. Okay,
sometimes, yeah,
sometimes. Okay, but you are not a drinker.
No, not that much.
Not that much. When you join, when people ask you for night out, okay, after the meeting we'll go to the bar. Okay, Sarah, I'm going to bring you to the Japanese what do you call dinner, and all the colleagues will go together. So everybody Japanese will start drinking, and they are the member of that society. Their society is Japanese. But if I go there, if it is against your principles, and of course that is your value, right? Value. So you don't, when someone offer you to drink, do you drink, Sarah? No, because that's against our culture. But in the same society, the member of the same society, for example, in France, how do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Do you celebrate Thanksgiving, Norian? No, you're not. You don't. How do you celebrate Christmas? Okay, how do you celebrate Christmas, Alban? You're 80, so you don't know. So how do you celebrate Christmas?
We eat a lot at Christmas.
Okay,
we drink a little, but we eat mostly.
So what do you do in the morning?
In the morning of Christmas, we open presents and gifts.
Okay. So that is is it only your family or the neighbor's family, and everyone will having that occasion of opening presents?
Yeah, everyone in France, I think. Almost.
So that is the practice, okay, that is shared by members of the society. Okay, so it's shared. Okay, anything regarding to your way of doing things, Okay. So individuals who share a culture are members of society. Those who not are outside the boundaries of the society. Now, that's why I say it's very difficult, right? Culture is not something which is straightforward. It is difficult. Okay, it's difficult. Now, so in practice, culture. Okay, this I took this from the text as well. Okay, so in practice, we it's not something we are born with. It is something that we learn from members of society. Okay, if you have if you are the British culture, then you follow the way that the British actually have breakfast. Okay, or do things, do work. Do presentations and so on. So culture may affect business opportunities and procedures, and we must understand local culture before entering the host country. There's a small question from the book also. What type of culture facilitates success in fast-moving industries such as e-commerce? Any ideas? This is probably the answers lie ahead after this. Some of the answers lie ahead when you talk about the elements of culture. What do you think? What type of culture, working culture? But of course, the working culture comes from the social structure, okay, the languages, and so on. Any ideas? Fast-moving e-commerce. Will we? Why is it successful in? For example, let's take an example. Amazon.com. Okay, why was it so successful in US? Anyone?
Because people don't want to move, so they want to be served at their home.
Okay, that's from the consumer side. Okay.
Yeah.
They want to actually, they want convenience. Okay, they want convenience. But when you set up this e-commerce, you are the company that is actually operating this e-commerce. Okay, what kind of employees do you actually want? What kind of attitudes do you want? Someone who's actually dependent on the leader to actually make decisions. Some society they don't dare to make decisions. They depend on their bosses to give direction. They only work when they are given directions. Other than that, they'll just wait for instructions. Okay. Okay, never mind. We'll leave that as a question, and probably you'll think about it as we go along. Okay, what kind of culture in a fast-moving industry, fast-moving, okay, and probably is a bit high-tech, okay, e-commerce. Now we move on to we want to discuss about the basic elements of culture. There are 5 basic elements of culture, as explained and this developed. Okay, it must have some reference. Okay? So the first one is social structure. We have social structure, language. So these are the components of the elements of culture: communication, religion, values, and attitudes. Okay, social structure, language, communication, religion, values, and attitudes. Right. This is what people have come up with. Okay, this is a basic. So basically, they are interrelated. Interaction of these elements affects the local environment in which international business operates. So we need to understand this element first, and you must also recognize that they actually interact with each other. It is not stand alone, because languages will also influence the social structure. Okay. The way that in Japanese there is the polite form and the futsu form, the tene and the futsu. The for the polite form, gozaimasu, arimasu. There are the root form, root, root, wakaruka, that is root form. Wakarimaska, that is the polite form. And they have this go, so languages. So that means when you talk to your bosses, you cannot talk to like you talk to your friends. Okay, so that is a no. Okay, that's, but in, of course, I think in all languages, they have some form of, language that you actually respect. So we'll go through one by one. Okay, one by one. The first is social structure. So all society, but now it's breaking up our society, right? So this is the old way of, I still stick to this. Okay, family must have husband and wife because I'm a Muslim. There is no man and man marriage. Okay, that is totally ridiculous. We can argue, Alban, no problem. There is no women and women marriage. There's no such thing. God have created man and woman. God have created everything in pairs. Everything. There is a verse in the Quran which says that everything that God created is in pairs. Probably it's also in the Bible. There is red, there is black and white. There is, male and female. There is high and low. No, all pairs. There is, that's why you need man and woman to create the family. So individual. But when you talk about family, okay, in US, okay, that's US is more of a nuclear family. Okay, nuclear family. What's a nuclear family? Have you heard of nuclear family? What's the meaning of nuclear family versus extended family? Okay, Norian, what's nuclear family? Nuclear
Actually,
family.
I don't know.
Alban, what's nuclear family?
I have no idea, actually.
Nuclear family consists
sure,
of.
I think it's.
Yeah, Farah. Yeah, Sarah.
No, sorry, I'm not sure, but I think like it's a basic family with a man and a woman and children, one or two.
Yeah, they live together. So
yes,
normally, the nuclear family is this. Okay, the man, the husband, the wife, and the children live in one house. Okay, and if the son married, then they move out to another house. Son, husband, wife, children. Okay, so they create their own family and their own house, and the way the place in which they live separately. Husband, wife, children. Husband, wife, children. Versus extended family, where a household consists of the grandfather, the father, the mother, the children, the grandchildren. So there's a extended family, like in Chinese society or in Arab society, probably. Arab society also have this extended family structure, okay, whereby they live together. Okay, they live together in a house. Why is it different? Okay, just now when we said it is actually something that is being learned from one, a generation to another generation. So what is the difference between a nuclear family and an extended family? What's the difference, Alban? What is the difference in terms of transmitting the values and the behavior? This is a nuclear family with only the father, mother, and the child. This is an extended family in the household. In the house, okay, there's a big house, there are everyone there. What's the difference? Immediately you can see the difference.
Since the surroundings, the people surrounding the other people, I mean, the way of growing, the way of educating is different, I guess. I mean, you're not.
Yes, but in what way it is different? Because for example, in my family, I only have myself, my wife, and my children. So I only transmit whatever I know and my values to my children. What if there is a grandfather in the family?
There are more values, different values that are shared.
Exactly. Okay. More values, a different way of doing things, and then it is much more probably that's why it's extended. More knowledge, more values, traditions will be kept. Okay. So that's the difference. Okay, the difference in terms of this is under social structure. Okay, individuals, families, and groups, and also in some society is you belong to clan. In Arab society, they belong to clan. I think they have not to say clan which are uncivilized. Okay? They have their al-Habshi, al the family name. They keep the family name. Okay, they have that. Okay. In a social structure as well, we have to look at the individual's role within the groups. Okay. For example, we got talk about a little bit about discouraging nepotism in USA. In US, it is if a family member wants to join a company in which there is also the other family or is owned by their father. Okay, so they tend to discourage nepotism. Nepotism means family ties in the same working environment. But different from Saudi or Arab owned, they prefer family ties. Okay, or even Chinese firms, Chinese companies, you will see that if it is a family owned, okay, they will have generations of their own family working in the company. Okay, so that society allows, some society doesn't allow or discourage. Basically, it's not to say they don't totally practice it, but it is not widely practiced. Okay, so the individual actually understand that I'm not going to because sometimes there will be conflict of interest if you work in a family related business. And importance of the individual relative to the group. US or Western society, many Western society actually promotes individualism versus Japan group focused society, whereby it's a collectivist, individuals serve the group. Okay, so the salary of the CEO, okay, is big in US, huge compared to Japan. Why? Because in US it is the person's talent or individual performance which is considered. But in Japan, average. Okay, my salary depends on my group performance, so I'm not going to, it's being shared with the group performance. Okay, right. So if you are a company and you try to practice your individualism way of paying salary in Malaysia, for example, or in what call Japan, so it will be opposed by the members, the employees in that company. So you don't want to actually overpay, basically overpay the individual, right? So that's the first element, which is social culture. Right? Any questions? So this is Japan's demographic and cultural challenges. In terms of this is hierarchy. Okay, they also hierarchy defines how people deal with each other in their day-to-day life. Okay, and also they have this collectivism. Okay, very collectivist society. The second thing in terms of social structure is social stratification. How is the what do you call structure in terms of the society? Okay, we mentioned just now already about this highly stratified. Highly stratified is all societies actually will. Have you been asked question like who's your family, where do you come from, who's your your background? So this is actually trying to assess your level in society, okay, your level, okay, whether you are high up or low down, okay. We categorize, okay, all society will categorize, but if you if it's a highly stratified society, you must actually be careful about how you actually hire or do your promotion practices. Okay, so it says here, in a highly stratified society, must adjust hiring and promotion practice to take account clan differences among supervisors and workers. Okay, so you don't want to appoint, like in India, someone who is actually low in the society and then become the CEO. So normally Brahmin will become the CEO. Brahmin is one of the caste in Indian society. So that is, even it is against your so-called belief, that is the practice there. Okay, that cannot be avoided. Right. So highly stratified society example, British. This is British class system, working class aristocrats. India caste system, kasta. Have you heard of kasta? No, you haven't heard of caste. Brahmin, Kashmir, okay. It is actually explained somewhere in the book. You can read about that, okay. But more towards the values and attitudes and religion later on. But anyway, so highly stratified versus less stratified. Less stratified means, I don't care, who you, where you are in the society, you can move up. So it's a merit-based society, less stratified, merit-based, or it doesn't care whether if you are poor, you will not remain poor. But if in an Indian society, if you are poor, you will be normally, because you will be poor for the rest of your life. Okay, it is. You think it's fair? Do you think it is a fair, Alban? A caste society?
Is what? Sorry?
Do you think it's a fair,
Fair. No, I don't think so, because I don't believe in like meritocracy and stuff.
Oh, you don't believe in meritocracy? So
not really.
But
Not
is
in our world.
France, is it a highly stratified or less stratified society?
I think it's self-claiming to be like based on merit, but
are there high class people? Are there elites?
Sure, there are. Yeah.
And are you looked upon based on your background and your level, your occupation? Here, society categorize this based on birth, occupation. For example, Muslims are regarded as second-class citizens in India. Do you agree? That is, it's a reality. You can check the internet and see for yourself. So it's based on your birth. You're a Muslim, but you're Indian. You're same race, but different religion. Okay. Kasta, you are what do you call the down, okay, the level. So you're poor, so you remain poor, right? So people look upon educational achievement. Oh, you're a high achiever, so you're going to be pushed forward to become, the leaders. So that's why I say culture is difficult. It's very sensitive. Okay, it's a very sensitive, subject. Okay, very sensitive subject. Very difficult to. Okay. And another aspect of social structure is social mobility, the ability to move from one stratum to another stratum in the society. Is it low social mobility? This is highly stratified society. This low social mobility, that means a person who is, coming from a less fortunate background will remain there. They are not allowed to move. Only this high class society will move on and to become rich. High social mobility are those less stratified society. Malaysia is actually in the middle. Okay, it's not really highly stratified, and it's not too less stratified. It's in the middle. There are people who are actually high performance, coming from a poor family, becoming leaders and becoming rich people. Okay, so socially mobile society like US, Canada, Singapore, so individuals willing to seek higher education and engage in entrepreneurial activities because you are free to rise in the society. Okay, so that is the social structure. Right, let's move on. Okay, language. Okay, language is also an element of culture because it delineates cultural groups, and of course it's an important means for members to communicate, right? And language also become the way that you think about the world. Okay, Japanese always, the Japanese. What is the sentence structure for Japanese? Is it subject, object, verb, or verb, subject, object? Language we have this, right? I eat rice. I eat bread. Okay, but in Japanese they will say I bread eat. Okay, that is the verb is at the last. Verb is at the last. So when they converse, they don't have to say what they actually intend. Okay, they will say, and then finally they say to omoimasu. You know what the meaning of to omoimasu? Okay, Zara, what is the meaning of to omoimasu? I think so. Okay, so they will give all the things and then say, I think so. So that's why you should start to, I don't know the French. French is almost similar to Arabic, is it? There's a feminine and masculine verbs.
Yes, true. There are some differences, but still, yes.
Yeah. What's the structure? But in Arab, there is no structure. Can have all the structures. Arab. Is it the same in France? France, is it the same?
No, in French, it's the same as, well, just like in English.
Same in English. Okay. So it's like German also. Same. I
eat an apple.
Eat something. I eat apple. Okay. So it is how we actually the way that we see we see the world. Okay, it depends on our language. Malay language is so simple. The easiest language in the world is Malay language. Saya makan, saya sudah makan, I already eaten. There is no past tense for makan, there is no present tense for makan. So it's the easiest language. You try to Google and see whether it is right. What else? And also language will make us filter observations and perceptions. Okay, it becomes words that we do not understand in another language. We'll just we don't have that concept, in our language. We don't use that, right? And of course, it depends on the way that actually the society, right, as historically, okay, has actually developed. Right, it will filter observations and perceptions. It shapes one perception of the world and also provides, it provides clues about the cultural values of the society. Okay, what are the things that they actually value? For example, in I don't know if there is a lot of activities and words relating to eating. You like to eat Alban during Christmas. Don't worry, we also like to eat during Hari Raya. During Eid also we eat a lot. Okay, that is normal for all society. So if the words surrounding eating a lot, then it is that the values of entertaining others and eating is actually very high. But do you actually entertain guests, Alban? Do you actually invite people for dinner or for lunch during Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly family during Christmas, but yes.
But you also invite friends as well. But in Malaysia, you know, we fast 1 month and we celebrate Eid for 1 month. Sarah, you won't believe it. You come to Malaysia, we celebrate Eid for 1 month. And they're still celebrating. We have open houses. We call it open houses, meaning that we invite our friends and prepare food. Anyone can come. So we have open houses. So this week, I'm going to hold an open house for my family members, okay, and some friends. So we'll cook, and you know, like from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m., 8 p.m., sometime until night, the whole day, we'll just entertain guests, okay. So if the language of food is abundant, then you can see that, you know, that's the cultural values of the society. And Malay is famous for food. Yes, we eat a lot and we entertain a lot, and food is you know, and everything is food. And if there is a, you know, if you are here, you go for training program, you know, 2 days training, or even conferences. The food is 5 times a day, 5 times. Morning breakfast, break, tea break, lunch, afternoon break, dinner, 5 meals. Not light, but heavy meals. Okay. But anyway, language is actually something which is, the book mentioned about there are 3,000 languages and 10,000 dialects worldwide. Okay, 10,000 dialects. Okay. Even the Arabic language has various dialects, right? Very, very different from you know, from the original, or even a Quranic Arabic. And also another thing is that it offers indications about the diversity of the country's population. Okay, like you know, in Malaysia, there are Chinese. That's why Chinese is. I don't speak Chinese. Okay, there is also Indian. They speak Indian. Okay, Indian language. So you can see the diversity of the country's population by looking at the language. Do you think it's important to, you know, if you do business in the country, can you survive by not learning their the host country's main language? Will you be at a disadvantage if you do not understand the local language?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's mandatory to try to learn the host country's language.
Okay. If the host country, like Malaysia, has, you know, a Malay language, Chinese language, Indian language, okay, which language you want to learn? Okay, which language? In Japan, it's very clear cut, no problem. But in Malaysia?
I think I'll go for Chinese, since this is spoken by more than 1 billion people.
Okay, then you can only work in a Chinese company. Yeah.
I'll learn 3 of them, and then it's good.
Yeah. But I said just now, Malay is the easiest language. You know, you can just pick up within 2-3 months. Okay, some other things about language is that companies use language as a competitive weapon, especially if they have linguistic ties in terms of their linguistic legacy of colonialism. For example, you know, the Commonwealth countries, the British, or even the French. French have, you know, the North African countries which actually, you know, knows French. Okay, Algeria, I think French, right? Algeria, even Algeria also. I had a friend.
Algeria, Tunisia, and
Morocco, Tunisia, Libya is Italian, right? Libya. Egypt is English, probably. Is it English? But anyway, I have an Algerian friend who actually, he told me that he did lower education is actually in Arabic, but when he enter university, he has to actually learn in French. I'm not sure about that, but he told me that. Okay, then
Yes, and also in Tunisia, high school is in French. Well, at least for my cousins, everything is in Arabic, and when they come to high school, the first day of high school, everything becomes only in French.
okay. So how you survive?
Well, that's the problem. A lot of people struggle because of this, and it's actually very sad because some people are, well, they're not good at French, even though they.
How old is the high school? What age do you enter high school?
I think
15?
it's 15 or 14 or
14
15.
high
15,
school.
something like
Okay.
this. Well, they stopped learning French earlier, of course, but well, Arabic is very different from French, so of course some of them struggle.
Yeah, same in Malaysia. Malaysia, we have this new prime minister or the previous. When a new minister come in, they will say, "Okay, let's change the curriculum into English." Then,
That's right.
when it was formerly from Malay language, then changed to English. Then my son went through 3 systems: Malay, English, Malay.
Well,
So it's much more crazy. It's crazy.
yeah, it's complicated. I mean, in Tunisia, at least, I think that it depends on where you live because I feel like people who live in big towns usually are
Educated.
struggle less with French, but
Mhm.
when it comes to villages and everything, well, I guess they don't hear French that much, so so of course it's more difficult for them.
But when you live in France, you don't have any problem.
No.
But anyway, this is the historical. That's why it's historical. How I can speak English is because it's historical. I went to an English school, when I was 7 years old until I went to high school, all in English. During my time, there's 2 streams actually, English stream or Malay stream. I took the English stream. Okay, right. Okay. Other things about language is that sometimes when you do business or you have translators or you need to do some translation, okay, of documents or things that actually you're going to be using, okay. So in order to avoid mistakes, so you need to reduce mistake or giving wrong message. There is a concept called back translation. Okay, back translation means, what's back translation? What is back translation? Let me find it's like this. You translate and then you translate back into the original language and you get someone to check it. Okay, it's double translation basically, so that you avoid that so-called wrong message. Okay, because sometimes direct translation will will have a different meaning. I think the book gives the example. The KFC, the famous words is the finger licking good. Is it? Have you heard of that? Finger licking good. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, finger licking good. It probably is not used in France, but it's used in many English countries. Okay, so when they translate into Chinese, they say, "Eat your finger off." Okay, eat your finger off. so there is no licking, in Chinese. It's like it's direct translation. Okay, so to avoid that, so you want to do this retranslating to the original language after you have translated. Okay, so that you double check whether the what do you call use of the words is correct or not. Okay, and another thing is the using of common words. Okay, when you communicate to non-native speakers in the home country, you should use common words. Okay, use the common meanings of those words. Try to avoid idiomatic phrases. So what happened is that this example given in the book. Okay, caterpillar, you know caterpillar. Caterpillar is heavy machinery. They, bulldozers and all those things. So they are faced with the problem of communicating with the diverse international users of their product. So it developed its own language instruction called Caterpillar Fundamental English, which uses in the overseas repair manual, okay, service and repair manuals, they have this Caterpillar Fundamental English. And in this Caterpillar Fundamental English, it is actually a simplified version of English that can be taught to non-English speaking people in 30 lessons. So they introduce simple words. These are the words that you need to know when you do the repair for this bulldozer, for this heavy equipment. Okay. It consists of 800 words that are necessary to repair Caterpillar's equipment. So they have 450 nouns, 70 verbs, 100 preposition, and 100 other words. So it's a use common words rather than trying to explain each and every steps one by one. So they come up with these common words. And another thing about language is that words may have different meanings. Okay, saying no, well, words have different meaning to person diverse. Even saying no. Okay, be careful. In Japan, when you say hi, it may mean no. Okay. Be careful because you have to, understand the flow, the context, then you reply. Okay. They will invite you for tea, for example, or coffee. Kohi nomi ikimasen ka? No, kohi iku apa ni nomi ikimasen ka? Let's drink. Why don't we drink coffee? Ikimasen is let not go. Negative form. So how you answer, Sarah? Or Alban or Norian? Kohi nomi ikimasen ka? Nomi ni ikimasen ka?
Wait, how to answer the question in negative form?
No, how to answer that question? I mean, how to answer that question? Okay, how would you answer? If you say that, yes, I want to go. Yes, let's go.
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe something like ikimasho. I don't know.
But the word of yes and no, what's the word of yes and no in Japanese?
Oh, yes, hi and
hi.
Well, no is iye, but they don't use it.
Hi, yeah. Okay. So if I ask that, you will say?
I would say, oh, hi.
Okay, Norian. Okay, how you answer?
How would I say hi, nomimasho, hi, ikimasho?
Correct. Hi, ikimasho. Hi, ikimasho. Okay, even though the words, the request was actually in a negative form, right? That's normal, actually. It's normal. They will always, it's a polite to actually, ask in negative form. They don't say, no, ikimasu ka? They will say, ikimasen ka, nomimasen ka? The polite way of actually, so be careful because sometimes, we have to, understand how is no being said. Okay. Right. So I want to quickly just go through the remainder of the things that is important for culture. we were talking about language, and then the elements of culture on communication. There's non-verbal communication, facial expressions, and so on, eye contact, forms of non-verbal communications. But you need to actually understand how the culture is, like bowing in Japan, or hugs and kisses allowed or not, okay, or even for different people, or even shaking hands, okay. Another element is the communication in terms of gift giving and hospitality. Probably gift giving during any visits or any meetings. It depends whether it is allowed. Gift and not bribes. Okay. It's an important means of communication. Different gifts, giving etiquettes, and is it that the hospitality customs differ between cultures, and also communicating bad news in a different culture. You need to probably bad news. For example, there's a death in the family. How are you going to convey that into the person? Okay, let me see. Because I remember correctly, hospitality. The next element is religion. We discussed it, little bit also. The way that we do business and practice is also depending on religion. Because religion will shape the attitudes of adherents, okay? The way that we actually do things, like for example, allowing people to pray Friday prayers in Muslim dominated country, okay? It will also constrain the rules of impose constraints on individuals, okay? That's where here in Hinduism, okay, it emphasizes spiritual accomplishment rather than economic success. Okay, so that's their way of looking at things. And also different religion affects consumer buying behavior, the way that we actually also buy, and also the seasonal patterns of consumption during festive seasons and so on. So religion is, and it will impact on international business in terms of legal system and how homogeneous the religious belief system is. Okay, and have you heard of the halal certification? Halal certification means products produced according to Muslims' rights, okay, of food handling and so on. So in Japan, there's a movement of creating a halal product, because there are Muslims living in Japan, for example. So they have to actually cater for this group of consumers, and the businesses are actually producing that to meet the market. And there are halal standards being promoted in many countries, especially in Malaysia. Okay, exporting to, for example, Muslim-dominated countries, we need to be very tolerant to that. Okay. Now, values. Okay, what is values? We have already we did talk about just now, right? Values. Okay, but the formal definition of values given by the book is, those are values are principles and standards accepted by members. Okay, so these are my value system. For example, I mentioned just now, I did mention to you my value system of marriage. Did I just now, Elvin? I've conveyed my value system about marriage. Okay, that's my value system, because that's my principles. and then standards, and is accepted by members of my society as well. Okay. Of course, to your society, no, people have their own ways of seeing things, But these are values. Okay, that is your value. The value is that, you know, I don't care what you say, you're wrong. Okay, I'm right. That is also a value system. Okay, but truth can be found. Truth can be found. There is nothing, you know, in this world, because there's black and white. There's only black and white. There's only truth and false. Okay, there is only truth and false. There is nothing like, you know, everything is true. No. Okay. So attitudes encompass the action, feelings, and thoughts that result from those values. Okay, and they will become your attitudes. Attitudes. Right. And cultural values, you know, it says here, deep-seated beliefs about individual position in relation to his or her deity, the family, and the social hierarchy. Okay. So it's difficult to that's why, you know, if you have your belief systems and you move to a, you know, a country in which is having a conflict with your belief system, then you need to do some adjustments. Okay. Right. So cultural attitudes towards such factors are going to be affected by this time, age, education, and status. So this will reflect your values and internship the behavior and opportunities available. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the approaches in which we can study culture. Okay, we study culture. Okay, one way of trying to characterize differences in cultures is the so-called low context, high context approach developed by Edward and Mildred Hall. So in a low context culture, the words used by the speaker will explicitly convey the speaker's message to the listener. Okay, low context culture. High context conversation occurs is just as important as words that are actually being spoken. And the cultural clues are important in understanding what is being communicated. For example, Anglo-Saxon countries are low context cultures. Okay, low context. They just speak their mind, and this is, you know, but in a, you know, high context culture like Arab countries and Japan, there are hidden, not say hidden, but things which you need to read, what do you call, the fine lines. Okay, read the fine lines. So this is an example of low and high context cultures, low context and high context. Okay, it depends on the words, the context, the cultural clues, and the business behaviors. Okay, so that's one way of actually approaching understanding culture. Another way is actually the cultural cluster approach. So someone have actually synthesized country cultures, clusters. They call it clusters. There's 10 clusters which approximately share the same culture, similar culture, so language, religion. That's why these are grouped together. Confucian Asia, China, Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore. Okay, this is a Confucian Asia. Southeast Asian culture, India. I do not know whether India is here. Iran, no, I don't think so. Right. So Germanic Europe, Nordic Europe, Eastern Europe, Latin Europe, Middle East. Okay, these are the Middle East. So when they do business internationalizing strategies, they, you know, similar clusters will be much easier to actually work with. Okay, so it depends on the cluster in which they are going to do business. So for example, foreign market entry methods, the closeness of culture is used as a, if you use the closeness of culture as the criteria, for example, Canada firms will invest in Britain or even in France, okay, for that matter, Canada, vice versa, okay. So if they use this cluster approach, okay, in understanding the culture. I'm going to explain this, the other approach, which is actually the Hofstede's dimension. Have you seen this before? Have you studied this before? Okay, so I can just briefly go fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 dimensions. Okay, 6 dimensions. Social orientation, power orientation, uncertainty orientation, goal orientation, time orientation, and indulgence restraint orientation. So social orientation is the person beliefs about the relative importance of the individual and the groups which that person belongs to. So it's either individualism or collectivism. It's either I or we. Okay, I is more important or we is more important, and this is the the criteria in which we can look at primary loyalty to my career, my goals, my me, everything is me. Primary loyalty to organization or the group, collectivism. Okay. And then power orientation, they believe that people hold in the culture hold about the appropriateness of power and authority in hierarchy. For example, power tolerant or power respect. Okay. So power tolerant children are adults in training, and they are taught to think for themselves. This is an American way of doing things or the Western way of doing things. Children taught to obey. This is more Eastern culture, Muslim culture. Chinese same, Muslim same. Teachers are guides who facilitate learning. Teachers are the source of all knowledge. I do not know whether in France is actually this or this. What is the source? Where does I have not how do French teachers teach? Do they facilitate learning or they are the source of all knowledge? Alban.
I think they're more like facilitating learning.
Norian, teachers in French are facilitating learning, facilitate learning.
Oh yeah, I think so.
They are not source of all knowledge.
It's quite both actually.
They are source of all knowledge and wisdom. Okay, no. So I think this is more of many Western countries. Okay, hierarchies are a necessary evil. Hierarchies are desirable. Okay, everyone knows their place. Okay, so this is power orientation. Power orientation. Another dimension is uncertainty orientation. Uncertainty orientation is the feeling in which people have regarding uncertainty and ambiguous situations. Okay, so uncertainty acceptance is you like challenges, basically stimulated by change and thrive on new opportunities. So ambiguity is seen as a context which individual can grow. And carve out the opportunities as available. Okay, whereas certainty is monotonous, routine, overbearing structure. So you are not going to, what they call, you don't like to work in those kind of environment. Certainty, you want uncertainty. So uncertainty avoidance culture dislike ambiguity, will avoid it. So ambiguity and change are seen as undesirable. So you can look at this detail here. This is the different extremes of uncertainty orientation. Uncertainty acceptance. So this is the ambiguity create opportunities. This uncertainty avoidance, they avoid uncertainty. Because uncertainty create threats and challenges. Okay. So culture which are uncertainty acceptant, people will change jobs if new opportunities arises. And avoidance, they change jobs risky. But the younger generation today are here, uncertainty accepted. Even in Malaysia, even my children, they change job if new opportunities arise. They don't They're not like us, the old people, okay? We stick to jobs. The younger people are here. Uncertainty, acceptance. So unorthodox behavior is tolerated. Here, social norms are strict and to be obeyed. Goal orientation is the manner in which people are motivated to work towards different kind of goals. So you either you have aggressive goal behavior. Aggressive goal behavior, you put a high premium on material possessions. Okay, the world is, wealth is more important than, other things in life. Money is more important than, health. People who adopt passive goal behavior, I guess, you need to have balance in the middle. You can't be too aggressive, you can't be too passive. Passive goal behavior is you place high value on social relationship, quality of life, and concern for others. Okay, you can do this survey. Okay, you can do a 1 to 10, Likert scale or 1 to 7 Likert scale, and ask questions relating to what kind of. You don't have to. You can give, for example, quality of life is more important than material rewards. Okay, I ask this question to all three of you. 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very, very important, 1 being low important, 1 to 10. Okay, the question is, quality of life is more important than material rewards. Okay, I would like you to respond by giving me a number between 1 to 10. 1 is not important. 10 is very important. Okay, Alban.
I'd say 8 on this one.
8.
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah?
8 too.
So you are passive goal behavior lah. Noria?
I would have said 7.
Okay. So all of you are, okay, let's go to the question. Work life and family life integrated. Alban, I'm doing a survey now. Let's just quickly.
I'd say 6 maybe.
6, okay.
I'm not sure to understand the whole question though.
No, the second one is actually, do you believe that work life and family life should be integrated? Because
in what way? Like,
in many ways, for example, you lead this statement, work life and family life separate and distinct. That means your aggressive behavior, you work. Here, no, you don't work, you have family life, you have work life separated, not separate, integrated means you have some time for family life.
Okay, I'll go for 7 then.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah?
I'll go for 8.
8. Okay. What about Norian?
I still don't understand, like, it shouldn't be like, for me, it shouldn't be like integrated. It should be separate. So
you want 5 probably.
Yeah.
So this, if you see this negative, this is actually a continuum of from passive goal to aggressive goal. So if you are an aggressive goal person, you will look for material rewards more than quality of life. But if you're in the middle, I'm a 5. I'm a 5 middle. Okay, so anyway, another one is time orientation. How do you actually adopt a long-term versus short-term outlook on life, work, and other aspects? Okay, so short-term thinkers or long-term thinkers. Short-term is short-term orientation. Tradition is important. Truth is obsolete. I don't know. Truth is a situational concept. Luck affects success and failure. effort affects success. Okay, are you a long-term or a short-term oriented person? So you can ask, can answer that for yourself, right? And then indulgent resistant orientation, this dimension measures the importance of self-control. If you score high in this dimension, you will value leisure time and pleasure, and generally optimistic in outlook. Okay, those low tend to be cynical and to place little value on leisure time. For example, here, indulgence, enjoy life and have fun. Optimism, cynicism, leisure time is highly valued, leisure time unimportant. If it feels good, do it. Okay, seeking instant gratification is looked down. So these are measures, and you can actually evaluate, assess different cultures. And finally, the world's culture is becoming similar because of improved communication and transportation, internet and cheap air travel. You can travel all over the world. I can see how you can witness for yourself the culture. Of course, if you have the money. But even if you don't have the money, all these channels of television, cables, whatever, CNN, MTV, BBC, you name it, okay? You have access to political events, sports, cultural scandals, and we are being molded by one way of thinking. That's why I do not watch this. I do not watch BBC. I do not watch CNN, because they will give the same message. So I don't believe in that. If there is a so-called cultural convergence, okay? Especially it is facilitated by MNCs, big companies that actually invest in many countries around the world. McDonald's is already a world culture. McDonald's, McD, and we have this so-called how much does a Big Mac cost, okay? And they can compare the cost, cost of goods in all over the world. So the convergence facilitated by MNCs define our lifestyle, attitudes, and goals through these management techniques, technologies, and cultural values. Okay, so it can result into some form of conflicts, right? So this new culture, so it will result into conflict. Okay, if we make the mistake of the so-called relying on self-reference criterion, okay? Self-reference criteria, which is an unconscious use of one's own culture to assess new surroundings, okay? So that is difficult. So the foreigners, which you are actually the foreigner. For example, if you go to Japan, you are the foreigner actually. You're not the local. We are the foreigner, right? So we have to actually behave according to the rules of the culture at hand. Okay. But of course, I've been doing a lot of work in Japan. I think they respect. No, it's okay. Sarah, if I don't drink, they're not offended. I've been to their dinners. They have never offended. But I know their culture, and they also learn my culture. I have actually performed prayers in a factory. I just asked a place that I want to do a prayer, salah, okay, and they allow that because there is a cross-cultural literacy. But for our case, we need to, okay, for business people to actually go beyond their what you call culture. You need to not only understand a foreign culture, but also modify and adapt your behavior. So if you go to Japan, you must eat using a chopstick. Dekiruka. Do you know how to use chopstick, Norian? Chopstick. Do you know how to use a chopstick to eat?
No, I know it. It's okay.
You know, okay, good. So when you go to so you don't feel. So those are things which are acceptable as long as those things are not things which are again against your principles, you can tell politely, no problem. People will understand. Okay, people will understand. Many people will understand. Okay, right. So some questions that probably are given at the end of the chapter. These are things that have been discussed or described. Okay. So what is culture? Again, that's why in the beginning I say it is a difficult and sensitive, subject matter. The main elements of culture, the primary characteristics of culture, the major approaches to the study of culture, which is just now the cluster approach, as well as the dimension, Hofstede dimension, cultural dimension. So we can focus on one thing, for example, how to use this for international marketing, for example, how to do for HRM, human resource management. Okay. So what is the significance of social orientation according to Hofstede? What is power respect and power tolerance? How do they differ? Discuss the differences in pay systems between US and Japanese firms, and to what extent are these differences culturally determined? Right. I want you to let me just just stop sharing for a while. So you have this book, right? This book is you have this book, right? The textbook. If you go to the end of the chapter, there is a even you say go to, I want you to actually do a little bit of investigation and answer this 4.23. Okay. No need assisted graded writing question. No, it is actually just look at this question. Okay, just answer this question. One of the most influential schemes for analyzing cultural reference was developed by Hofstede. We discussed the various dimensions. What are the anchor points of this dimension? Where appropriate, give example of how Hofstede analysis provides insights into differences in basic business behaviors like leadership, reward system, job stability, decision making, and so on. So I want you to do. So this is the problem, the assignment for this week. Okay. So this question 4.23. Okay. Right. It's 11:35. Sorry to take your time. Extra time. Okay. Any questions? Right. So please submit that by before next week's class. Okay, before next week's class, a Monday, or Monday, end of the day on Monday. Okay. Right. So I will see you next week. Okay. Hopefully, if you have any questions, please just put up in our line group. If you have any things that you need clarification. Okay, so I'll see you next week, God willing. Okay.